Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we have a special little bonus mini-sode, so to speak, today, because our Kickstarter has launched for our good friends over here at Last Dog Productions, Josh Armstrong and Michael Southgate. And they are, we wanted to have them on the show because they're doing a really cool project they got going here. We talk all about that, plus one of their short films that they did that we got to see, which was called Shift. And they're a bunch of just two great guys that have a really good story and really good history and creating some great stuff together. So I think this is gonna be a fun interview.
Yeah, the film is called APOCRYPHAL, and it has a really interesting and important meaning behind it. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it in our interview as they tell that story. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
One of the best parts of doing the podcast is getting to meet and chat with filmmakers about their upcoming projects. Today, we have Last Dog Productions writer-director Josh Armstrong and actor Michael Southgate to discuss their latest Kickstarter project. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And I know this has been a long time. We were trying to schedule this, so I'm glad we got this organized. Of course, the 5-hour time difference puts a wrinkle sometimes into these kind of things, but
It does, but we're filmmakers. We stay up late. It's all good, and we're here now. That's the important thing.
Before we get to your new film, guys, I wanted to ask you kind of about yourselves and how you got into the filmmaking business.
Sure. So, gosh, how did I get in? So, I've always been into film, even from an early age. I snuck into a screening of The Matrix when I was a kid, and I think I've just loved film. I think that was the moment when I realized, wow, I can blow people away with cinema. So I've been in and out of the industry. A few years ago, though, I decided to start my own projects, really push some themes that I thought were important for people to see in film. And I suppose that's how Mike and I really developed our relationship. We worked together a few years ago. We had some similar interests, and now we're an award-winning production company and, making some really cool stuff.
Nice. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I've always been interested in filmmaking and acting from a really young age. To begin with, I'd say that acting was predominantly just trying to make people laugh, just comedy and stuff like that. And then over the years, I've gradually branched out and sort of reached deeper into myself to perform more serious roles, bigger roles, and just ask questions about myself and things like that. In terms of filmmaking, both Josh and I went to the same university in Cambridge. We both studied at separate times there. I think Josh did... What was your course, Josh?
Mostly beer and going clubbing. I did film studies.
I took that class.
So I actually, interestingly, my professor for my screenwriting courses is the BAFTA-winning story writer of His House.
Oh,
so,
yeah, I love that movie.
He wasn't obviously at the time. This was a few years ago. But, we're now friends, and, we've worked on this great project too. I also want to say that, as much as I love Mike, I always seem to want to make him cry in my films. I don't know why I keep doing that, but he acts so well. I thought, you know what, I'll make him cry in this one too.
So yeah, I did a media and drama at that same uni. Spent a few years working at the uni afterwards, and then sort of in my spare time trying to get into film and acting as much as I could. And then a few years into that, Josh approached me about making Supermix, which was our first feature on The Last Dogs. And then we've done Shift, which was our short film, and never looked back from there really.
Yeah, Shift was good. We got to see that. We actually have a question on that in a little bit. So also, speaking of that, though, too, that kind of brings up the next question anyway. So it seems like a lot of your projects lately, it seems to focus on horror and sci-fi. So I assume that was you had some favorite films. And so which one of your films have been some of your favorites and most influential?
In terms of horror films?
And horror sci-fi, yeah. Like, because I see you got, the last couple of ones seemed like it's horror and sci-fi, so.
Yeah, you know what, I think for me, I really enjoyed Get Out, and the reason for that is because it really challenged some tropes. I think there's a real push right now to redefine horror, and I think it's much needed nowadays. So yeah, Get Out for me is definitely in the top three. Also, I really enjoyed Hereditary.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so eerie. it just stays with me. It's just an incredible film.
Yeah, Hereditary was the only movie that has made me scream out loud in a theater, believe it or not, involuntarily.
I think there's only. Do you remember the film Signs? So,
yeah.
like, I'm not a fan of the film, but there's that one shot, and you probably know what shot I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
and that is the scariest shot I've ever seen in my life. They're just walking past the camera. I don't know why it's so scary. It's so simple. I watch it in slow motion on YouTube, and I still find it scary. Why?
Yeah, I saw you post that on Twitter asking about other ones, so I contributed my scarring scene from Salem's Lot, which I don't know if you saw yet, but that's like total nightmare fuel with that where the kid floats up to the window. It's like so I get that. I could see why like certain films are like simple things but could really like scare you with that. So what about you, Michael? Do you have any specific ones that kind of
I think I was speaking to Josh about this earlier. There's lately, obviously, I watched His House, and that really enjoyed that one. And I think it's similar to what we're trying to do in that we're blending reality with, well, different forms of reality, really, and just asking questions about what is really happening, what is imaginary, and blurring those lines. So that's what interests me more in horror. But in terms of more conventional horror, I think a scene that I will never get out of my head is in Sinister. With the lawnmower scene, like that, just crazy. It's a controversial one. Lots of people hated it, but I quite enjoyed Cloverfield. Like, I thought it was a pretty interesting idea.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think from a visual effects standpoint, I'm blown away by that film. But I do feel a bit sick when I'm watching it.
I saw that in the theater too, and I remember that like all the shakiness of the camera. I was like, but it was cool, because like at that point, I think found footage was kind of like, it was very, very formulaic at that point, and that to me, I remember it was the first found footage I saw that kind of like went beyond the usual like little slow buildup where this thing put you in the middle of something, constantly, and to see like a giant monster on the screen, I just remember being blown away, saying, "Whoa, that is something I have not seen in a found footage." Usually at that point you were getting like glimpses and you didn't see anything. That was the strength of them. So I agree. That's a great choice, I think, because I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Nice.
Yeah, and they were doing stuff in that film that you couldn't typically see in found footage because found footage was typically low budget. It was indie, and that was the first time you'd seen like a big budget special effects mixed in with found footage. Before we get into your new movie, guys, I did want to ask about Shift because I got to watch that today. It was on Amazon Prime. Short film. Yeah, it was really good, and I was just kind of wanted to ask about it just because it's such a unique setting for a horror film.
Yes, it is. I mean, I mentioned earlier that there's this big push to essentially redefine horror with filmmakers at the moment. And I really wanted to explore if it was possible to build tension in a well-lit area. And that was an ice rink, it turned out. It's always very common for you to see the mysterious, ominous figure lurking in the shadows, in the corners of the room. But I thought, well, what about, could we do it if we were in an open space? It's all well-lit. And I think we did really well, to be honest with you. I was really proud of how it turned out.
Oh yeah, no, it's fun. I'm a big hockey fan too, so I like anything on an ice rink. So, and up until that, I think probably one of the scariest things that anyone that I could probably, if I asked them about what their scariest thing in the ice rink would be, was me actually ice skating, because I usually end up careening into people and knocking them over. So I'm glad you took that a step up, because that was really cool. I thought it was such a unique premise, and like, It really does. I mean, anyone can scare you in the dark, but like you said, in a well-lit setting, you still managed to build that tension. I thought that was just phenomenal.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you liked it. And you know what? I still don't know how we did it, like, but we crowdfunded that as well on a budget of £2,500. So
Wow.
I'm not sure what that is in dollars, like almost just over $3,000. So it wasn't much money, and we still managed to make a really good little short film.
That's amazing that it was that inexpensive with what you came up with, because that was really, really good. That was,
yeah.
I mean, in New York, the rink alone, it'll cost you $3,000 to rent it out privately. So
I think we stayed at like 1-star hotels, and I don't think any of us slept on the first couple of shoots. And you know, I think I suppose that kind of comes with being a filmmaker, because you have to sacrifice everything to make something beautiful. And generally, how do you say the word? We graft our way through. You know, we're proper grafters. We learn every single field we can, and we eat terrible food and sleep in terrible conditions, so long as the art is good.
Yeah, that was a shift. We shot that overnight at the ice rink, which helped really with the spookiness of it all. And just
especially when we were told it was haunted.
Yeah. But really trying to utilize all the different spaces there and just create that tension, and then sort of build from there. So yeah, I'm really glad you guys watched it and enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was great. So we want to get, of course, we want to know for sure, and we know our listeners would love to hear about all this current Kickstarter that you're about to start. I feel weird saying that Kickstarter and then start, but you know what I mean. But I understand too, there's a very personal story kind of attached to this film that you're working on. So we'd love to hear all about whatever you can tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of years ago, I sadly lost one of my friends to heroin addiction, and he suffered from mental illness. Now, what the sad thing that I found was, when telling this story, was that people just heard he died of heroin addiction, when actuality it was this severe mental illness that he had that lured him towards that dark side of drugs. And we'd always talked about making this sci-fi music video because he was a musician. We'd made some music videos before, but unfortunately, we weren't ever able to do that. So, especially over the pandemic, I think all of us can say in some capacity we've struggled with mental health or know somebody who has. And now is definitely a time where we really need to drive this home, that it's so important to look after yourself so that you can look after others. And also, I guess, challenge that perception that, you know, drugs are the problem. I don't think drugs are the problem. I think the foundation for the support needed for mental illness isn't there. And that's what's bringing people to use those harder drugs. Ultimately, I don't think there's this great line in Trainspotting, which is, you know, we're not stupid. We know what we're doing. And they're all taking heroin. And it's because they're desperately trying to find a way out. So I think these are two major issues that we really need to look into. The problem with horror, I found, is that it definitely seems to encourage this stigma that those with mental illness are dangerous or violent. And, you know, I think that comes back from like the 1920s when there was, you know, huge nationalism and all this sort of thing. But now I think it's time for the horror genre to evolve. And that's what we're seeing in films like Get Out or His House. And yeah, I just want to carry on moving that forward and hopefully create content that people can relate or learn from as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because I know I mean, myself has struggled during the pandemic on a lot of times because, you know, it was hard to, you know, you're used to a life And then it literally, without kind of a warning, it just got taken away from everybody, and some people could handle it better, but some people also, like I am like OCD anyway. So it's like, I'm already like paranoid about, germs coming. So it's like, there were days where I didn't want to get up off the couch. I was just really, down because of of what was going on. So that's a great point to make, that a good comparison to that, because it really, and I know a lot of my friends too were dealing with the same thing. And like in Tim's case, he I don't know, Tim, I don't know if we really talked about it too much, but you had to still, you got a family you have to keep up with, so you didn't really have as much. Like me, it was just me and my wife right now, and so we could kind of sit there, but it's like, Tim has a family. He has to move. He got to go on. He's got to worry about his kids. He's got to work, and so he's got this extra worry. So it's like, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I've had some experience with different family members and mental illness in the past, and it's really, really hard. And I think it's just a wonderful tribute to your friend, to create something out of what was a tragedy, and kind of educate people and maybe bring some light to it. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I think if I can help just one person, then it'll be worth it. I still can't quite believe he's gone, to be honest. I watch videos of things that we've made in the past. It still doesn't feel real. But I think he'd be so proud of the story we created and the work we've done on it. So yeah, I really would love to get this done, because over the past, gosh, how long? Almost a year, Mike and I have been working on the pre-production for this, and we're so passionate about it. We need to get it made ultimately, because it's just such a great little film.
Well, we'll certainly do our part to let our listeners know about the Kickstarter and try to get you guys as much support as possible.
Yeah, do you know anything about the Kickstarter yet? Like, if is the site up yet? Right, I think it starts the 18th, right?
Yeah, 18th of May. It'll be a month-long campaign. So we will have a link of apocmovie.com to go to the page. But yeah, I think what Josh often forgets to do in his passionate speeches about the film is he forgets to say the name of the film, which always helps.
Yes.
I couldn't read it. I was hoping you'd say it because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. So I'm like, they'll mention it. They'll mention it.
Yeah,
I didn't even mention the story or anything. I just talked about his themes. Sorry about that.
So the film is titled Apocryphal. And what an apocryphal is a story of doubtful authenticity, but one that is widely circulated as being true. So immediately we have questions over what really happened within this film, and what the truth is, and how different people are coming to different conclusions, and the struggle of the main character to convince people that what happened. Josh, did you want to go more into the story?
Yeah, so we're trying to be careful not to reveal too much about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we asked the question that if somebody who is struggling with mental illness and drug addiction was to come up to you and say, I've had this encounter with aliens, how would you react? How would you treat them? So essentially, our main character, Oliver, it starts to experience these out-of-world events that make him question his sanity. But also he quickly discovers that it's impossible to describe the struggles that you're going through to people who know nothing about that struggle. And, that's essentially, I feel, what mental illness is like. It's so hard to be able to explain what you're going through. Because to others, it's just so, I don't want to say the word abnormal, but, it's not something that I think we're expected to understand. Right. So, yeah, we're looking at themes of drug addiction, mental illness, but also alien abduction, it, you know, trying to scare people's lights out, but also trying to create something which is actually quite moving and powerful as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds amazing. Yeah, I mean, we're big fans of that, the alien abduction subgenres anyway. So and I like that it has this message with it too. So
yeah, so it's really one of the initial first drafts of an idea that we were having was, oh, well, imagine if a sort of vulnerable person was out in the middle of nowhere, went into a building to seek shelter, and then there just so happened to actually be an alien there or a UFO was in that tower or whatever, and then no one's going to believe this guy. and how is he going to even explain what happened? And it sort of developed from there into, what if it was a group of guys who were drug addicts, and they were out sort of taking drugs in some bunkers overnight, and then something happened to them, and it sort of developed from there, really. But yeah, the film itself looks more at Oliver's and his friends' backstory and why they are the way they are, what their struggles are, how they've ended up sort of on the fringes of society, and all sorts of areas of that. So there's a lot of dark comedy in there as well. So I guess you could say that there's some Trainspotting influences a little bit. But yeah, playing, like I said earlier, playing around with what is real and what isn't, and having different characters see or not see different things as well along the way. So
yeah, and I think as well, like on that note, if you asked me 3 years ago, do I believe aliens visited Earth? I'd say no. Now I have no idea. with the Pentagon releasing all this UFO footage, I don't know what the truth is anymore. So I think that sort of message is also definitely, as Mike said, put across in the film, blending that line of surrealism and realism. Because to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure what's real myself anymore.
So, guys, tell our listeners how they can follow you on social media, follow Last Dog on social media, so that they can kind of get the word out.
Sure. So you can check out our Twitter at Last Dog Films. We're also on Facebook at Last Dog Productions. If you'd like to go to the Kickstarter page, you can go to apocmovie.com. That's apocmovie.com. And yeah, hopefully, we'll get this funded. Could really do with all the support out there. And if anybody isn't able to fund the project, totally understand. We're in a pandemic. But if they can give us a share, that actually makes a huge difference as well. And yeah, I think this is an important film to make, and we would love it if your fans could get involved.
Oh yeah, and we'll definitely, like I said, like Tim said earlier, we'll make sure we share all the information and help really get the word out there, because especially I mean, this movie, to be honest, it sounds amazing. So I'm really excited. So I am definitely going to do what I can to help get this out there, so that you guys can get this made for because it'll be I don't know. Tim already and I love these kind of films, so it's like you sold us on that or anyway. But especially because it has such a personal message, and you just know that there's going to be such passion put into it from you guys, and that it's gonna be amazing. So we are extremely excited for that. And by the way, I wanted to say I do love on your Instagram too that little that thing you guys do, the frame of the day or something, the movie frame of the day. That's pretty cool.
Oh, thanks. I you know what, I haven't been able to keep up with it. We've had so much pre-production work in the upcoming days of this Kickstarter. Got a bit behind, but thank you.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I was telling Tim, I'm like, did you see that? They got a really cool thing going there. It's like, I love that, the movie frame of the day.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Brian and I are big supporters of indie film. We love helping creators get stuff out there. So we're definitely going to advertise this. We'll have your links in the show notes, and we look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. We are so grateful for you having us on here and for giving us this platform. It's amazing. You guys keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you. And and anything else you need for us to help spread the word? You got anything you want to? We'll just make sure we share everything, every update we can, and make sure everyone is up to speed on the progress so they can help out.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Brian, I know we always support indie film, but rarely do we get a film that has such meaning and passion behind it. So I really encourage our listeners to go out and support this one because of the cause behind it.
Yeah, and it was really, it's just like it seems. I mean, not only does it sound like a really great film, but the fact that it has such a touching story and like tribute essentially behind it makes it even more worthwhile to help support these guys. And it's like, I know we keep saying this, but like, again, we just meet the coolest people through this podcast, and so it's like hopefully this is just the beginning of a good friendship with these guys. And of course we're going to help contribute to this film. I hope everyone else can, if they can spare a little bit, to help them to, make sure you check out the Kickstarter, see what you can do to help.
All right, guys, so we'll see you back here next week. Check out their Kickstarter page, which we'll put in the show notes, and we'll talk to you soon.